Hello, everyone, and welcome to Penny for a Tale. My name is Mitchell, and tonight we are playing Degenesis by Six More Vodka. We'll now go around and introduce everyone. Jasmine, I'll let you go first.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I run the Twitch channel Geeky Nomad, where I teach people how to volunteer for conventions, whether they're big or small. Pop on over there if you want to learn how to get into volunteering for any convention near you. I also teach people how to make panels as well as produce little demo spaces. When I'm not doing that, we're playing RPGs, first person shooters, a lot of PC games, a lot of PlayStation games, a lot of Xbox, all that good stuff. Um, I can be found on most social media with at underscore the geeky nomad, all one word. And I do a lot of fun hobby things, as you can see here. So that's me, and I'll be playing a Paler, a cult character, and my name is Teague.
Awesome. All right, Amanda.
Hey guys, my name's Amanda. I am a live action role player and I both staff and play a couple of different games. Currently, I am staffing Coddington Woods, which is about to go into its third iteration, which will start in 2020, and our finale is coming up not next weekend, but the following weekend, which is October 4th through the 6th, and we are in Connecticut. I also PC as a Chord of Spring at Madrigal 3, which is an awesome, wonderful LARP that if you have a chance, you should totally check it out. It's in Woodstock, Connecticut. This is actually kind of part of my makeup, so it's a thing. Other than that, I am going to be playing Rayearth, or Ray for short, and she is an apocalyptic visionary from Pergare.
Yeah. Kyle, it's all on you.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Um, so my name's Kyle. I'm a freelancer for Six More Vodka, the company that produces Degenesis. Um, I am not actually working on Justitian, though we will be highlighting some of it. It's one of our upcoming books. I work on primarily Artifacts, which is an upcoming sort of rules expansion, gear expansion, has some other fun stuff that I'm not sure I'm at liberty to discuss. But basically, if you like Degenesis, but you're upset that the really crunchy rules occupy a very small portion of the rule book, and the rest is just content, Artifacts gives you a few more rules and a little more content to expand on that a little.
All right, it's your game, bro.
All right.
Take it away.
So we're picking up in autumn of 2594. It's beginning to become winter. And in most of Europe, there are only two seasons: the growing season and the cold season. And up here in Borca, in Justitian, that's no exception. People from across Europe come to Borca, even from Africa now, as it's become more prominent and trade routes have been more firmly established. And they go there to trade, they go there to weather the winter, they go there to try and get an advantage over their opponents, because Justitian is a city of a tremendous influence. It's the heart of Europe. And it's run by the judges. Men and women who've hardened themselves and forced themselves to enforce law and order over the people they represent across the protectorate. And the judiciary, their leaders, have turned Justitian into a city where anyone who is willing to play by the rules can find refuge from the harshness of the wastes. However, Justitian is not a beacon of hope. There's no grand opportunity to be found, no shining light cast out over the wasteland. It's safe because there you are among many, but it is not a haven for everyone. Sectarian conflicts have begun to pick up, and only recently have been brought back into line by the judges. Under the leadership of Archat, whose sort of career has run a dramatic arc. The city went from merely sort of the capital of the judges and an influential trading outpost to be the last real remaining safe place in Orca. And some of that people hold some grudges against the judges for, because the protectorate, well, I say last safe place in Orca, that's not really true. It's the last sort of neutral place. Like Cathedral City and the Spital are still tremendous cities in their own right. They're a lot smaller than Justitian, and they're run by just one or two cults without a lot of other influence. Justitian is the last place where you'll see an Anabaptist and a Jehomedan and a Spitalian and an apocalyptic, rubbing shoulders together. And every winter things get just a little bit closer to the brink. The clans push further south along the northern borders, and to the west, west in Franca, the conflicts have begun to rage against the Pharaohmancers and their drones at a fever pitch. To the south in Pregare, things are business as usual, but the Helvetics, Swiss mercenaries essentially, control the trade routes with an iron fist, and more Justitian relies on trade flowing from Franca, especially southern France. And so, with winter approaching, in the middle of September, you arrive at Justitian, ready to seek your fortune.
Oh, yeah. Are we still like a couple of miles out, or have we arrived like at the doorstep of Justitian?
So, if you want to be at the gates of Justitian, you can. However, right now, in late September, as the harvest draws to a close, almost everyone is trying to get into the city. And so as you draw up and as you approach, you find that there are plenty of opportunities to blend in and mingle with people. Traders who have come from far and wide to try and sell supplies during the long winter. Farmers who have taken in their harvest early, sold it off to the Spitalians, and are now, just waiting to enter the city with lots of expendable money and not a lot of caution. Judges, of course, patrol the crowds trying to keep order, especially when they see apocalyptics or they see Anabaptists and Jehommedans getting a little too close together. But everyone's moving towards the gates.
Yeah. So Gamal is obviously an Anubian with the white circles kind of barely seen over his neck. He's wearing more clothes than usual because obviously it's cold. A brown-like sweater with holes and such in it. Something he probably got on his way over here from a trader. Nothing too fancy. He's wearing like these long, almost billowy pants with some color to it that hints at his Hyperspanian origins. He's carrying like the staff with a what looks like it looks like a spear, but when you kind of get close to it, you know it's not really suited for combat. The metal's too thin. It's very dull on the exterior. It definitely is not suited for combat at all. More so to scare people away than anything else. And boots, which he'll take the opportunity to kind of like get on the ground and take off one of his boots real quick to probably get a rock out as he's like painfully massages his feet after traveling so far, and got some time to chill before the line moves again. But he's eyeing everyone around.
Well, Teague is grabbing her talisman. This is her first time being outside of Bunker 43. And she's kind of assessing the area and remembering what she was told to go straight ahead, eyes to the ground. Straight ahead, eyes to the ground. And she keeps repeating this as she takes a step forward. She's dressed in what's what you can only call maybe a modge podge of clothing and layers upon layers, since there's really not a whole lot of fabrics you can mess with that haven't deteriorated from inside the vault. She's got a light cloth over her head and just more magpie layers of clothes underneath. On her forehead, it is her sign of her religious group. Palers tend to follow a heretic path, so and right now she's trying to assess whether it's better to keep to herself or try and see what she can lift off of other people.
So Ray is doing what she does best. She's trying to influence others to move her along faster through the line. If you look at her, or if you happen to see her, she has her hand gently on one of the Sentinel's shoulders, and she's speaking very quietly into his ear and moving very sinuously. She has on a headdress kind of like mine, which flows into her shirt. And because it's colder out, she's got a fur around her shoulders, which I will get whenever we go on a break, because I didn't realize we were going in winter. But she
Probably should have mentioned that.
Well, I turned on I turned up my AC just to simulate the whole thing.
So she has a fur lightly draped over her shoulders. Her midriff is bare still, and she has a pair of dark brown harem pants on, and they are tucked into a pair of knee-high black boots.
Love it.
As you're waiting in line to sort of enter the city, you see a disturbance break out ahead of you, and a judge walks up from behind the people and starts shouting at them. And he doesn't have to shout very long because he pulls out his hammer and immediately people just fall silent and get back in line. And he turns to face sort of the rest of you and he shouts, "No line jumping. Anyone who cuts will be cut."
Jeez. You mean flattened, right?
He turns to you. He's like, "Did I ask for your opinion?"
And I'll kind of go back to massaging my feet.
"That's right." He says, "I see that a lot of you are not from Justitian, so I will remind everyone of the rules. Show your face, secure your weapons, heed the curfew, do not dispute, report treason, keep clean, leave to others what is theirs, and do not reenact. If anyone, and I mean anyone, violates the law, I will personally see to it that you are left outside for the winter." And with that, he strolls off, evidently quite amused with himself. Or maybe not, you're not sure. Judges don't always seem to have much of a sense of humor.
Jeez.
Eventually, your turns come up, and you're all relatively close to each other. And the chronicler, who's checking all the traveling papers, asks each of you for your papers.
Do we have our papers?
That is a good question. Unfortunately, all of you being new to Justician, you were unaware that you required papers.
I'm like
Yep.
patting
Awesome.
patting myself. Man, papers. Was there a sign in the back that I should have seen concerning this, or how does one acquire papers hypothetically if I don't have them present on me at this very moment?
The chronicler looks at you from behind his mask, and you can tell that he's a little bit frustrated because he just sort of like slumps, and he says, "If you do not have papers, you'll need a citizen of Justician to vouch for you."
Okay. Well, how do I go about getting the citizen's attention to verify that I am present? Do I just walk past you and go find this person and, we promise I'll be back tomorrow? Is that how it works?
The chronicler crosses his arms. "No entry without papers."
Okay. You see the dilemma I'm in, right? And I kind of like turn behind me to like the people in the crowd. This guy's like making this difficult. We're all cold, right? We want to get inside.
People like, when you turn to look at them, they like shuffle away like, "We don't know this person."
Uh,
I'm like, jeez, man.
well, dang. Depending on how close I am, I'm just gonna saddle up to him and be like, I think we can solve our problems though, friend. If you come with me."
Whoa. If I come with you.
I would like to use my networking skills here and see if we can reach maybe someone who needs like assistance of some kind and favors. Or if I can listen in on the crowd to see if there's anything of use.
Unfortunately, while you know a couple people in the city itself, you don't see them standing around.
Oh.
You do, however, notice a judge who looks more than a little bit bored, and she's just leaning against one of the buildings that's sort of been constructed outside the gates to serve as like checkpoints. And when she sees that you're having difficulties with papers, she begins strolling casually towards you.
Okay.
I kind of go.
So I'm gonna.
All right. My name's Gamal, by the way, and I extend my hand to the chronicler as well as to Teague. It's kind of like a
like dual hands.
yeah. Dual hands.
Yeah, the chronicler just doesn't even react. He's just still just standing behind the counter like, "No entry without papers."
All right, I think this, and I kind of point to the judge. I think she's gonna help us real quick. And you are, and I kind of look at Teague.
Yes, I'm Teague.
Okay, Gamal, pleasure to meet you. You, yeah, Paler.
Oh, I see. And then I'll go up to the judge. Would you happen to know, is there anything we can do for you?
She says, "Depends." She says, "I see that you're having some difficulties with papers."
Yes, we need papers. I think me and my friend there.
Anyone else need papers? Looking around.
At this point, you notice, seemingly out of nowhere, a semi-short woman, as described before, leans over the counter behind you to the chronicler. So, unfortunately, I have left my papers behind, but I can find someone to vouch for me within the city. I don't think you would mind that too much, would you? She puts her hand delicately on his forearm. And I'm going to roll seduction.
I'm like elbowing Teague. Watch this. This is gonna be good.
All right, so I've got 2 in that and 3 in charisma. What do I roll?
5d6.
You'll roll 5d6.
Okay.
Anything that's a 4 or higher will be a success.
Okay.
And a 6 is a trigger, which gets you extra effects. In this case, probably nothing. There's not. You either succeed or you fail on this. You don't really get a whole lot of room in between.
The first roll of the game, and it's seduction. I love it.
So I've got a 6, a 4, a 2, a 4, and a 2.
Ooh, nice.
Well, the good news is that you've done this well enough that she doesn't seem too upset by it. The bad news is that you've done it in front of probably 300 or 400 people. And you can tell for a moment that she's seriously considering it. And you know, she doesn't really know what to do. And then she comes to her senses and she's like, no, you can't get into the city until you have your papers. She says, you could send a message if you wanted to, but I don't see any couriers out here right now. She says, however, I do have a task that you could perhaps help me with.
Oh, and what would that be?
She says, first an introduction. My name is Jordis. You'll probably be working with me again, so I want you to remember that. She says,
It's in.
I have jurisdiction over a part of the rubble. And she motions out to the farmland surrounding you. But with the harvest drawing to a close, they've assigned me to watch all these people as they come in and stop any troublemakers. She says, of course there aren't any real bad troublemakers. They're too tired and too ready to be done with the season.
Yeah.
She says, nonetheless, it's come to my attention that an issue came up that I do not currently have the time to deal with.
Well, what
She
is
says,
it?
one of the farmers living out in my sector had her plants die due to some sort of poison, or so she says. I haven't seen it with my own eyes. I need 2 things done. First, I need you to go and keep order by making sure that we know who's behind it if possible, assuming they've been poisoned. She says, I don't think Hilda would be this sort of person to lodge a false complaint, but bad seasons happen to everyone. And second, report to me so that I can make my final decision in the case.
I mean, if that's it, sure.
Is there any sort of reward if we find out the latter?
She says, well, obviously I'll sign papers for you so you can enter the city. She says, but rewards will actually be handled by the juryman, Wald.
All right.
She says, Wald has been the juryman out there for a long time, but when a dispute is big enough to make its way up to me, as, say, someone poisoning the plants, I have to get involved. She says, this is a grave matter, too. If someone deliberately harmed the crops, the Spitalians will want to know about it. And
Oh.
with this, she sort of like lifts her hammer a couple times, sort of letting it sink back into her hand so that you can hear like a sort of like a soft thud of the hammer. She says, and someone's going to have to be punished for it.
And to be clear, it's not going to be, say, 3 vulnerable people from other countries that you might have issues with, right?
We'll deal with that later. Let's go do this first.
She says, if I needed a scapegoat, I could just blame the Mohammedans.
Okay, good.
Uh,
Not
Can we
us.
have directions to this place you speak of that's having the issue?
Yes, she takes out sort of it's sort of halfway between a map and a diagram, because it's not really drawn out to show places so much as like the major intersections.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, if you look here, this is the road that you came in on. And she sort of draws a line with her finger as she goes down the map. She says, it's not a very complicated route. You'll just turn left at that intersection. Then she draws another line across. And then you'll see Wald's mansion. She says, I'm not sure where he got the funds to build it. And I haven't asked too many questions because people don't complain about him.
All right.
Okay.
So just follow this map. You're going to give that to me?
She says, I need this back.
You got it. No one's more trustworthy than I assure you.
Do not worry. I will make sure that he returns it lovely. It would give me another chance to come and see you.
She hands you the map very sort of carefully and then says, if we don't solve this by the cold season, it will be too late.
For
Make sure,
us?
she says, to figure out who poisoned the crops. She says, I'm more concerned about keeping peace than bashing a skull in. But to have crops be poisoned and not have the culprit caught means next year will be full of paranoid accusations, and she sort of just
Yeah, no doubt.
she's exhausted. She just sort
Yeah.
of sighs and slumps back against the wall.
And no doubt people will start questioning whether or not the judges are truly bringing law into this land or not. But hey, things to think about, right?
Ray just kind of stares at you nonchalantly, no real expression on her face, but you can tell she is severely annoyed with the comment that you just made.
And Teague's just cackling in the back. You said the thing to a judge. I'll be surprised if they don't hang you later. Come
Jordas-
now, let's go.
Jordan seems just tired enough that she doesn't care. She just sort of waves you away with her hand. She's like, just go.
All right, we'll see you with everything you could ever dreamed of, probably in a couple days or however long this venture is going to take. Gamal will nod and then start heading towards the road. Looking back at Ray. My name's Gamal.
Charmed, I'm sure. My name's Ray.
Ray. I mean, isn't everyone charmed to meet an apocalyptic?
Generally, though your presence kind of makes me wonder if I should have anything to do with you. At least the other one knows how to hold her tongue.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's fair. Teague over here.
Teague's just gonna
Would
scuttle between
the judges ever hammer anyone just for making them look bad?
Yes.
Yes, they would. Without a second thought.
Yeah. I just want to make sure she's not someone easily angered or petty enough to throw us under the bus. I mean, look at us. If I was a justician judge and I wanted the answer to a question, however way we come back, even if we have the answer, I'd throw us under the bus.
The problem is you have no tact, no understanding of social contracts, or politics for that matter.
Man, my feet are way too tired to go into the politics and social maneuvering, and it's a long walk.
If you don't pay attention to your surroundings, you'll have a very short life indeed.
Listen to her.
Yeah.
How much further till we get to the first turn?
Did you just ask, are we there yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Rebel, as it's called, is not the most promising farmland. The Anabaptists who live here and the providers who are sort of clanners who are not Anabaptists but do sort of the same thing because they're out farming have barely managed to reclaim the soil for something that could be described as a productive purpose. So as you go by, and admittedly the harvest has just passed, so a lot of the fields that were previously blossoming and growing are now, reaped down to the soil. The biggest sort of landmarks are the giant silos that the battalions have built, each marked with the sort of 8-pronged star that the battalions use to mark their territory. But you follow the map, and it's actually pretty easy. There are signposts that are marked with, sort of I wouldn't say street names because they're more just sort of like markings, because most of the people living out here aren't literate. So like there's like a red diamond for one of the avenues, but you pass through and you find where you're looking for with no difficulty. And as you're walking through this otherwise barren wasteland, you find yourself at this actually pretty decent looking estate. It's not massive by like Neo-Libyan standards, but it's recent construction, concrete, stone, has not electric lighting, but it does have like torches and whatnot lighting the exterior. And it looks like it's maybe like a 3-wing house. And it must be Wald's place that Jordis sent you to.
All right. Ray, do you mind knocking on the door for us?
I'm not entirely sure why it has to be me, but sure, why not?
If you're opening a door to strangers, good to view a beautiful rose and, I don't know, us.
Ray just kind of rolls her eyes like, you've got to be kidding me. So she goes up to the door.
You don't hear anyone say anything, but you hear a few footsteps approaching. And this peephole in this massive, it's a metal door that's been hung up in this sort of stone doorway, slides open, and you see what looks like a very tired old man's face. And he looks out at you for a moment, and then he immediately just sort of closes it again. And you hear footsteps going away.
Excuse me?
Can we see anyone else outside the building?
You do see maybe like a servant or something out tending some of the grounds.
When I go to the servant that's tending the grounds over there, I'm not gonna say a word. I'm just gonna shuffle over.
Like run, follow you. Like
I'm kind of like, I'm not really walking as like a normal person. Just more of like a almost insect kind of like just hunched down and scuttling towards her.
creeper status, yo.
Yeah, Teak.
Hey, I lived in a bunker for a while.
Oh man.
So you surprise the poor servant, and she's like, like nearly screams when she sees you.
Oh, hi. Sorry. We're here to meet with whoever owns this place. Do you know anything about the crops going bad?
She looks at you a little confused. She says, Hilda's crops?
Yes, I think it's those. I'm not familiar with the terms you use for food, as I come from a place where we don't have food. Food is more of a paste, if you mean.
You're
Would you
freaking her
mind
out.
showing me and my friends
Yeah, she's just sort of like slowly backing away.
So Ray comes over. She kind of saunters over and says, "Please forgive my friend. She doesn't have what we would call social skills. So she's lovely. She's lovely otherwise. We're still working with her on that."
Yes, we're working on a lot of things.
I don't
She
know.
says-
I say keep her the same. It's far more interesting.
She says, I assume you're here for Walt then.
Yes, that we are.
She says, I'll go and see if I can get you let in.
Thank you, darling.
She goes and knocks on the door and yells, Heinrich. And after maybe 30 seconds, the door opens.
Oh, hey. Teague, did you want to give the introduction?
Oh, I thought y'all were going to do it since I'm just a little
No.
off.
I think you're perfect for this task.
So as he comes up, I'm like, hello. We come in place of did we ever get the judge's name?
Jordis.
Droidus. We are here on behalf of Judge Droidus. We are here to inspect the crops you've been reporting.
So you go up and you don't realize this, but you're actually speaking to like the butler. and so Heinrich just sort of stands there and he's like trying to figure out how to respond to this.
I wasn't sure who was the leader here. Maybe the small one, possibly.
and he just sort of takes a moment and he says, "You're going to want to speak to Wald." He says, "It's just about dinner time.
Can we
But
join?
I'm sure they'll have enough food for everyone."
Cool. And how about a place to stay, like sleep? Preferably indoors.
I like how
Heinrich shrugs and says, "Perhaps." You notice the inside of this building, it's not lit with electricity, or gas for that matter, but it is lit with like hundreds and hundreds of candles.
Oh.
It must be a nightmare keeping them replaced.
Yeah.
In fact, Heinrich's actually going around with like a basket full of candles, replacing the ones that begun to burn low.
Hey, Heinrich, what's the candles? You're kind of a little excessive there.
He says, "It's harvest festival time." He says, "Wald likes it nice and lit up, but he doesn't like the smell of the torches."
Oh, all right. That's fair enough. So where's dinner? Or is there a place here where we will eventually be put to sleep that we can probably prep ourselves, maybe by use of water, some sort of cleaning area that we could go to?
Heinrich looks at you. Cleaning?
Water. We've been on the road for quite some time. It'd be nice to bathe. You know.
He says, "Oh yes." He says, "I can have a basin brought for you."
That would be lovely. Thank you so much. Is the room just up here or down here? Where are we going?
He says, "First I should take you to Wald."
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Please lead on.
So he leads you into this banquet hall. And of all the places you've been in Borca as you've traveled to Justitian, this probably is the nicest place you've been so far. It's not massive, but the stone sort of walls are really sturdy compared to what you've seen a lot of other places. Like, this is not a cheaply built structure. It's built to last. And the wooden rafters have been like actually like stained. They're not just like raw wood. And everything's cast into sort of this orange glow by hundreds and hundreds of candles. And the table out in the middle of the room has enough space for maybe 20 or 30 people, depending on how comfortable they are with sitting directly next to each other. And it's laid out with more food than you've seen in Borca, like combined. Like, just, you have what appears to be like a whole goat roasted. You have like 5 or 6 different types of bread. There's jugs of various things that you're not entirely sure what they are, but they all are, decently sized. It's not like you get like a little tiny glass of water or something. Like it's laid out like a banquet. And as you enter, you see a man wearing this. It's not quite a judge's coat. Like, it's clear that he doesn't want to get in trouble for impersonating a judge because it's not as heavy a coat. And he's not wearing any other sort of signs of judicial office. But, like, if you saw him from, like, 200 meters away and the lighting wasn't good, you might think he was a judge. And he's not a giant man, but he kind of waddles a little. Like, he's not... It's clear that he does not earn his living out in the fields. He's sitting at a desk doing paperwork and stuff like that. And he wears spectacles that are sort of these fine gold-rimmed, like wire-rimmed glasses. And he sees you, and he like glances at a servant and back to you. And before he even introduces himself or anything, he says, what brings you here this fine evening?
And Deke's just gonna scuttle a little closer to him. Yes, we're here for the judge who you wrote to. Could you tell us more about your crop troubles?
He says, Jordis sent you. He says, I can tell you more over dinner. He says, you'll want to get washed up, I'm sure, and prepared. He says, but first, an introduction. I am Wald, the village juryman that has been appointed for this sector. He says, if you need anything while you are here, feel free to come to me. I will be more than honored to provide it for foreign dignitaries.
And Teak takes a moment to think about what does that mean, dignitary.
Ray just kind of elbows her, like, don't say anything.
So looking back at Ray, she's gonna.
And he's very animated. Like, he has this like open body language, like a showman of sorts. Like, if he's not like pointing to himself or like gesturing grandly across the room, his arms are like at least, like his hands are at least 2 feet away from his body. It's like, friends, and just throwing up his arms. He's very. Once he learns that you're from Jordis, he's like entirely unreserved, just very open, very maybe not warm, You don't get the impression that he's super duper friendly, super duper happy to see you. But at the same time, I mean, they're feasting. He's got more than enough food made up for everyone.
Were you
Um,
expecting someone else?
He says, I was, unfortunately, but they had to cancel at the last minute.
Oh. And just to sate my curiosity, who was that?
He says, well, Jordis, for one,
Oh.
but she's on duty at the gates. She says, and a couple of my local affiliates who, not affiliates, that's not local, what's the term they use for it? Like, not subordinates, but like
Co-workers.
Well, almost like
interns.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a good term for it. Like
indentured servants.
A couple of the local farmers
Hmm.
who I had business with, but could not make it today because of the festival and the celebrations. He says people, of course, want to spend their time with their families, and I understand. He says, it would have been nice if they had provided me more notice, but in this case, it is a happy accident.
Yeah.
So Ray walks up to him and bows deeply, and when she stands back up, she takes her fists and kind of like puts it over her heart, and she introduces herself. I am Rayerth from the Ja'Akari, and it is wonderful to make your acquaintance, and I am so happy that you have received us so warmly. Thank you for your hospitality.
He says, all are welcome in my house, he says.
That's good to hear.
He says, yes, if you have any requirements or questions, I can deal with them after the feast, he says. But for now, I must make ready for the guests who will be showing up.
Oh. I'm Gamal, by the way. Hi. Hey.
He just sort of like nods and says, good to meet you.
You as well. All right. Should we follow your servant here to wherever is the next stop?
Yes. Heinrich shows you to the guest quarters now that he's sure that Wald will let you stay.
Yes.
By the time you arrive, there's already been a basin of water brought.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it's not warm. You're not sure if that's Heinrich being a jerk or if that's just Orkin customs. But it's water. It looks reasonably clean.
It's better than nothing.
Can I search the room?
So the rooms are decently outfitted for guests. There's not any like small items really. Because they're guest rooms, they're not really intended for regular habitation. There's just sort of beds with slightly nicer than average, but like the beds are still like, despite the fact that you're in a fairly well-built mansion, the builds are still like stuffed with straw. And you know, it's very sort of, from what you've seen in the rest of the house, the guest quarters are kind of a disappointment.
Hey, but at least water. So I'm gonna just start like getting my stuff off and finally relaxing. Oh my god.
Do you think you could have a little more consideration for the other two of us in the room?
Why is it?
She's not paying attention at all. She's
Is
just
it
kinda...
weird? Like.
Of course it is. Did you grow up in a barn?
I just grew up in a place where it didn't matter. I mean, guys, like we're in Borkin now. Like I think this is the customs. You know, It's been a long walk. My feet are tired. Feel unclean. It's just,
Don't you think it's a little odd that there's a meal going on?
I think it's a little odd this guy has so much, I don't know, money.
Mm.
Like, look at this place. It's really nice and everything. Are other places like this? I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
Of course.
Never
I
trust a
wouldn't
Borka.
eat the food just yet, though.
Sadly, I'm pretty hungry, and I think it's worth the risk.
Okay.
Um,
Well, considering you have no consideration for other people in the room, I am going to go wait outside while you finish whatever it is you are doing.
I mean, okay. I mean,
So Teek's just gonna drop to the floor and scuttle underneath the bed.
hey, Teague,
Mm.
never change.
Nightmare fuel, man. Nightmare fuel.
Must be closer to the metal that was my home.
Anyway, so you have about 10 minutes before Heinrich. I swear I should just write his name down because I keep forgetting it, and I have to do like the remembering thing. Heinrich shows up again and he says, "Are you guys ready for the feast?"
Yeah. I feel like Gamal has like a bath towel. So there's several like of these circles on his body that go out, continuous circles almost under his skin, raised in a very peculiar way. And he starts putting on his clothes, and he has a Anubis mask, and he takes out several of these black, almost clear-like stones, and starts playing with it in his left hand. But he'll probably give like 5 minutes to Teague and Ray for the bath.
Yeah. Teek's just gonna splash some water in her hands and like clean up her arms, but not really any other part of her body. And then she'll say some ritualistic prayer to her sleeping gods, and then scuttle back under the bed.
Gamal will just lay on the bed and try to take a quick nap before the servant gets in.
Ray is going to withhold from the bath.
You don't want to get clean with this person scurrying around underneath the bed and
Not particularly. But she's actually using that as her reason for leaving the room. She's going out of the room, and she's going to take a look around to see if there's anything she can glean from her surroundings. See if maybe there's something she can uncover about this man.
All right. Well, from the building itself, you can tell that this is recent construction. You know, it's all very newly built. It's cleaner than you would have expected if it were ancient. There's no dust or anything that seeped in. And Borka has this awful red dust. You know, and after 4 or 5 years of a building standing, it, you know, even if you've kept it totally clean, even if it's very well built, the dust just gets in anyway, and there's no undoing it. But you can still see like the grout and everything hasn't yet been permeated with this dust. So this mansion's been built in the last 3 or 4 years at most. Despite the quality of the structure itself, the furnishings are a little more humble. Other than the fact that he must be spending a small fortune on lighting, the furniture is pretty light. You know, simple, sometimes wooden, sometimes stone, sometimes metal. You think it's more whatever was cheap for whatever he was buying rather than really a question of like, is this beautiful? Does this fit in? Is this the nicest thing I could find? You know, it's comfortable compared to almost everywhere else you've seen in Borca. But if you were in Pregare and this was a nobleman's house, for instance, you would be looking around and being like, you'd seriously judge him. Like either Wald has no taste or he spent all his money on building the house itself and not on filling it with stuff.
So I'm wondering, is there anything out in the open that might tell me a little bit more about Wald himself?
Where are you looking? Are you just sort of sticking to the antechamber and like the hallway that leads down to the guest quarters, or?
I'm probably going a little bit beyond that, given that he seemed amicable to us kind of roaming.
All right, so you do notice off of the antechamber, there's a very small Anabaptist chapel. It's not well furnished at all. It's clearly sort of a place for doing devotions more so than like you would never expect to see like a religious service carried out here. But it's got the aesthetic. There's a broken cross up on a very small altar, if it could be called that. It's almost more of just like a statue because it's so small and it doesn't it's clearly got like the right symbols and everything. Like it's not fake, but it's also sort of a like it's the sort of thing where if you saw it you would expect it to be sort of lip service more so than like it's clear this wasn't built up to be the same level of expense as the rest of the house. It's like the building itself is solid, but the effort that went into the chapel, expenses were spared.
Interesting.
There's not a lot of like plants or anything. In Pregare you would see potted plants or something in a nobleman's house. Some of that might just be down to the fact that it's Borca and stuff doesn't grow that well up here in the daytime, and it's already sort of early evening, so the sun's beginning to set. There would be a lot of natural lighting, but all the windows have these metal shutters that are closed right now. And you notice that they're built kind of like fortification windows, like what you'd expect from old buildings in Pregare, where like if you needed to defend yourself, you'd fire a bow and arrow out of it, but like this sort of cone-shaped windows where the inner slit is smaller than the outer face. So it's clearly, even though this house is first and foremost built like a mansion, it's also built to be defendable.
So I guess the question would be eventually, why does he need so much protection?
One thing you do know is the jurymen are sort of like judges junior. So they're not real judges, they're clanners, they're providers, they're basically chosen from the local farmers for the ones who are sort of a little more educated, a little better at math, and given sort of a crash course in the codex of the judges so they know when people have and haven't committed crimes. Their primary function is to keep people out of trouble. Basically, if you're going to go to the judges and complain, and then the judges are going to have to deal with it, but the judges don't really need to get involved, that's what the jurymen are for. It's basically you go to them and you say, hey, Frank stole a goat. And it's like, okay, Frank should return the goat or I'm going to call the judges on him. This level of fortification is unusual, but not unheard of. It does say maybe that Wald is the sort of person who doesn't have as much faith in the judges and their ability to protect him as he might say he does. Um, Justitian has been attacked by unfriendly clans or apocalyptic raiders in the past.
Apocalyptics.
Not in several years, at least not anything newsworthy in several years. But perhaps that's what inspired Wald, and he was thinking, hey, if I'm going to get attacked by, bandits, I want to have this here. Um, it could also just be some of the shutters and stuff are to help keep out the Borking winter. Um, Last night it froze over, and like even pools of water outside were just, black ice by morning, and it was warmer during the day, but you can tell that it's going to be absolutely miserable in a month or so.
All right. So Ray's gonna turn around and probably head back, so that way she's there when Heinrich comes to get them.
Yeah. I mean, Gamal's laying on the bed. Can't wait for food.
All right, so Heinrich has sort of put off coming to see you when he finally arrives. He just sort of knocks on the door twice and says, "They're ready," and then he turns around and sort of walks off.
Well, he is certainly a charming man, isn't he?
I mean, in the land of the not haves, being someone who has to serve someone who does have is kind of grating after a while, I can imagine.
And T comes out from under the bed and straightens her clothes. And where'd you go, Ray?
Oh, I just went for a little walk. I figured I would give you some time by yourselves and a little bit of time for myself to clear my head.
Oh man, if you continue like that, we might think you don't like being around us.
Well, it's better to be, arm's length to your enemy, yes? And Teek's just gonna bow her head out and then just head out the door.
Oh, and there she goes. All right, I'll follow her.
I like her. She makes so much sense.
Yeah, the Palers, I think, got a lot of things right. Yeah, most.
So
things.
when you arrive at the banquet hall again, you see Wald, and he's sitting sort of at the end of the table, and he has like a bench, and there's a woman sitting next to him on the bench. You haven't seen her yet. You don't recognize her, but she wears sort of humble robes, not quite as fancy as what a lot of the other people here are wearing. And you make out sort of a tattooed 3 dots on her forehead.
Oh, I forget. What do I roll to figure out where she's from? Because I know that's a signifier of a...
It's an Anabaptist thing.
Okay, there you go.
And she's got like a nose ring as well, which you don't need a whole lot of extra math to know that that's an Anabaptist thing. But she looks like she's maybe in her early 30s, about the same age as Wald. And she's a little bit soft looking, like you wouldn't have her by your side in a fight as your first choice. But she looks very comfortable in the situation, and she's sort of chatting idly to a woman who's not very far from her.
Yeah.
You see a few other people sort of sitting around. None of them look that interesting to you. They're all sort of farmers from the local region. But next to you, on sort of his side of the bench, there are a few seats still left open. And Heinrich motions you toward those seats.
Cool. Looking at the Anabaptist, is there any role I can make to try to figure out where she is on the ranking?
You can tell if she's if she's really got any significant rank in the cult, she's not displaying it in any way.
Okay.
She's definitely an ascetic. You doubt that she's an Elysian. Just there's not many Elysians around here.
Mm-hmm.
And she's definitely not like an emissary or something. So yeah, you'd say she's probably an ascetic.
All right. I'll take my seat. Stretch out a little bit.
So when you show up and you finally arrive, Wald sort of adjusts himself and he sits up tall and proud and he says, "Ah, yes, friends, I should mention that we have visitors from afar who have come to help with an investigation." He says, the matter of Hild. And he doesn't really go into any more details then. He just sort of lets it rest. He says, "But anyway, let us not tally further. Let's eat."
Yes, and please. By the way, my name is Gamal. Pleasure to meet everyone. Most of you, you guys probably know what I am. I'm just gonna sit right here and take a bite of this.
Actually, most of the people around the table are looking at you like you're an alien. Most Borkans have never met an African, and even if they have, they've never met an Nubian. And so they're looking at you like, is this some sort of Mohammedan trickery?
Oh God, don't throw me in with
or
them.
Though you do notice that most of the farmers seated around the table are not Mohammedans, or not Anabaptists, rather. There are a couple of them, but they're they don't seem any more prestigious than the non-Anabaptist farmers.
Yeah. As I'm eating with my left, my right hand has like these black glass stones that I'm slowly gonna like move about in a very enticing way, see if anyone's curious about it.
They look at you and they're like a little, like one of the farmers who's sitting closer to you moves a little bit away, like a little bit concerned you might be trying to like curse him or jinx him or something. But he doesn't. No one openly comments on it. They don't know what the stones are for, but they're not entirely sure. They want to find out.
So Ray gives the same bow and twists her fists over her chest and introduces herself. "My name is Rayeth, and I am part of the Ja'akari, and it is wonderful to meet you all. Thank you for sharing your hospitality."
Across the table, the farmers sort of like, not really bow, but they sort of like nod their heads respectfully.
I'll give a little clap.
Ray just kind of shoots a dagger's look at you.
Well, it's trying to be respectful.
Ed Teague's really not trying to make any eye contact, but she just kind of, "Thank you," and then takes a seat and stares at the food in front of her.
So as you're eating, Wald's going on about the Spitalians are going to adjust the fertilizer and the pesticides. Next year we'll have greater harvests than ever before. And he, sort of blathers, to put it politely or impolitely, depending on how much you believe him.
Yeah. I'm gonna like interrupt him and be like, speaking of which, during our investigation, is there a way we could figure out what exactly has been done to the crops?
He just sort of shrugs and he says, "I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to get out to check Hilda's field yet myself."
Okay. But the battalions have gone over?
He pauses for a moment thinking. He says, "I don't know." He says, "It's kind of a busy season for them. They're busy inspecting the grain that gets sold to Justitian.
Yeah.
And, you know, they don't always care even when a field doesn't deliver like it's supposed to, because, you know, some seasons are just bad seasons and it's rough luck.
Yeah.
And he picks up like a greasy piece of meat and is like tearing it apart with his fingers. And, you know, he takes like a couple bites and chews and swallows, and then he continues. I mean, I feel bad for Hilda. You know, she got a bad turn. But, you know, it's rough for all of us out here.
Does anyone not like Hilda?
He thinks for a moment very carefully, and you see his wife sort of look at him, and he says, "No one hates Hilda. I'll put it that way." He says,
I'm gonna look around and do like a quick empathy check to just kind of like get a sense if this is true or if anyone's like, yeah, I want to get a sense of the response here. So 5.
all right, you want to roll for it?
Yeah. All right. 3 successes and 1 trigger.
All right. His wife does not like him talking about Hilda. No one else seems upset. Wald doesn't seem to be lying or anything. He says, Hilda's had poor fortune at every turn. He says, a couple years back, her husband died, and they'd sent their son off to join the judges a few years before that, and he got killed fighting in the north. Says, so really, says she's a wonderful woman. And his wife sort of glares at him a little. But, you know, not so unlucky that she's cursed or anything. But she can't catch a break.
So Ray sits up a little bit straighter, and you notice her body language change a little bit, and she seems maybe slightly agitated and closed off. She's listening to him speak and watching his wife's reactions. I'd like to roll for perception.
All right, and what are you trying to do?
Basically, I'm trying to I kind of know what's going on. I'm wondering if he's had
an affair,
with this other woman.
You get the feeling that might be possible. No one's going to come out and say it. You can't be certain, but you've seen that look before, that look of don't you dare mention her. You know, if you had to guess, you don't know for sure that it's anything recent, but there's definitely a history between Wald and Hilda.
Yeah. So I know Ray's gonna hate me, but I'm gonna speak up and just say, so you know, from where I'm from, it's kind of easy to see what misfortune looks like in terms of its physical reflection. You see it like dive down as roots, connecting different people together at times, or even flowing from one to another. From the way that I look at it, could you describe Hilda to me, her physical appearance? I might be able to figure out if there's any indication of misfortune which has kind of grasped her physicality. Be as in-depth as possible, if you don't mind.
Ray folds her hands in front of her, and her knuckles are turning white.
So, Wald takes a moment to contemplate things, and his wife is shooting daggers at him. Like, you'd better watch your step. And he thinks for a moment, and then he says, perhaps we'd best put off this discussion until after dinner.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um,
Does anyone want to ask Teak a question? Because I'm pretty sure she has some great answers to anything.
Being an observant little spy over here. So Teek's gonna continue to kind of poke at her food. She's not really
Teak.
convinced. She's not convinced that it's edible.
Teak.
And without looking up at anyone, she says, "Could you describe the fungus that you found on your crops before?"
Wald says, "I didn't see it with my own eyes. And like I said, perhaps it's best left for after dinner." And as he says this, you hear a door open behind you, and a woman comes through the door. She is also an Anabaptist, like Wald's wife. In fact, you see a lot of similarities between them, but this woman has clearly led a much harsher life. One of her hands is carved out of wood. And you can see sort of straps up her arm where it's connecting to or where it's being held on. And she limps a little in her left leg.
Hilda?
No, actually.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
And on her face, she has sort of the same tattoos that Wald's wife has. But over one, like, there's sort of a scar that runs from, her scalp all the way down through one of the dots and sort of ends sort of like right by the bridge of her nose. I just realized that when I'm like trying to show that off, it doesn't come across on the camera at all.
It does kind of, like, a little bit.
Like so.
Take detailed notes here, just listening.
But she settles down sort of in the chair, sort of, there were maybe like 4 chairs reserved, and you sat in the ones closest to Wald, and she sits down sort of in the chair that's been left over.
Hi, I'm Gamal.
She looks over at you for a moment, and then she's not much for talking. She just says, "Elise."
Elise. Good to meet you, Elise. Teague.
Huh?
You eat it.
No. She takes a small piece and then squishes it between your fingers.
Don't squish it. Just put it in your mouth. Oh, man. You're going to be hungry, like, tomorrow.
Before I pick up this jug, can I tell what kind of juices were used to make it?
You get a very strong smell of alcohol from it.
Nope, still not convinced.
I'm sure it's fine, Teague. Also, does no one have a question for Teague? I feel like you guys are missing out on a great opportunity.
Everyone just sort of looks at you, and you get the feeling that like you're part of the table, but no one really wants to try and talk with you.
I mean, that's fine. I'm just knowing the history of palers, we're not exactly, you're not someone you eat with anyway to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you notice that like the locals are like looking at Wald with sort of like a mixture of like admiration and pity. Like it's a mixture of, you must really actually be important, like you've said you have been all along, with
all these different people,
and you have to deal with this.
Totes important.
I feel so offended right now.
Yeah, they're peasant farmers. They don't really etiquette is not their bread and butter.
Yeah. I mean, at least we're not in one of those
Um,
places where the palers like have raided.
Nah, I think my culture actually does the rating. So
just
Yeah.
glad we're not in
Well,
that area.
I mean, the nice thing though about Borka is Borka's sort of isolated from a lot of things, and I don't think there are many palers in
Yeah.
Borka, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
There's the
that's true.
city. There's the city of Exalt, which, depending on how you consider it, they may be kind of tangentially related to palers because they're kind of similar in some ways, but they had much more contact with the outside world, and I don't think they're really considered palers. They were also sort of like bunker dweller types.
Mm.
But
Oh,
I don't think there are palers in Borka, and or at least not many of them that people have had
Yeah.
interactions with. There are some, but they're much rarer. And so, on one hand, that increases the whole "we have no idea who you are" thing. But on the other hand, people aren't, thinking, "Oh, hey, there's a paler here, and palers are bad news." They're like,
That's good.
"Is that a paler? Do you think
Yeah.
that's what a paler is?" And so after maybe 2 minutes of awkward silence, Wald's wife asks the woman who just arrived if she's feeling any better. And Elise just sort of responds, "I'm fine."
Not feeling well, are we?
And Wald's wife continues, "Ever since we were girls, Elise has had emanations," she says. "And in recent years," and Elise sort of shoots her a death glare, but she talks anyway. In recent years, they've come on more frequent and more vivid. Is that how you describe it? And Elise is just sort of shooting her a glare, so she doesn't wait for a response. She says, and it can be hard on people, she says, to have visitations like that.
I'm somewhat of a spiritual man myself. I could interpret for you.
They both glare at you.
Fair enough.
The Anabaptists do not open their minds to outsiders lightly.
Ray kicks him under the table. Shut up!
Ah, man, I think one of your chairs or something, like a piece of wood, fell on my foot. That hurt.
Oh no! How could this have happened?
I don't know.
But anyway, the conversation got inadvertently torpedoed. And in sort of an attempt to save it, Wald's wife speaks. I'm Ada, by the way.
Anna?
Ada.
Ada. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ada. I am Gamal. Hispania is where I'm hail from at least, and I don't know if you guys know, but I feel it might become relevant. I'm an Anubian. So
When you say the word Anubian, everyone's eyes sort of glaze over. Like they clearly have no idea what that is.
that's fair. That's fair. I've come a long way. I can't even begin to describe to you what I am. This chicken is good, or whatever meat this is, by the way. Very well prepared.
Wald looks very satisfied by this compliment, and he says, "Of course it is. I try to hire the best people for my kitchens."
Yeah. And this is coming from a man who has traveled the world.
He says, "Well, I am glad to hear that we can meet the world's standards." He says, "I know that Borka is something of a provincial backwater to someone who's enjoyed the bounties of Africa, but
Yeah, you're right.
we do try.
You succeed.
Ada, it is a pleasure to meet you. My name is Reyes, and I come from Pugare. And as you might be able to tell, I am an apocalyptic.
So when you say Pregare, you notice Elise like wince a little. Um, but Ada doesn't really seem to have any special association with it, and she sort of nods politely and smiles and says, "Good to meet you." Um, and you notice that Elise has had like she's basically gobbled down food. Um, and she motions for the jug that Teague has.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Gamal's gonna
okay.
like.
She pours a little bit into her cup and then gives her the jug.
Elise takes like maybe a 3 or 4 second long, just sort of like long swig straight from the jug, and then like stands up and leaves.
Huh.
And that was
Concerning her like visions or dreams or whatnot. Is there? Can I make like a legends roll or something to try to figure out what it could be?
Yeah. What's your secrets background?
2.
All right. Do make a legends roll for me then.
All right.
If you had 3, I would have said it's automatic knowledge. But
Okay. 4, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 successes.
Yeah.
All right. So the Anabaptists treat their emanations as visions from God. As an Anubian, you're not quite sure what they are. You have theories, some collective unconscious, um, a manifestation of primer phenomena, schizophrenia. You're not really sure 100% what it is, and maybe it's a mixture of all three. You don't know for certain what it is that gives the Anabaptists their visions. You do know that the Anubians often have visions as well that are sometimes similar. What's your rank again in the cult?
I'm an enchanter, so rank 2.
Rank 2.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't think at rank 2 you've necessarily had a vision yet.
Yeah, I think it might be with 3 where you actually choose like what you want to be.
Yeah, I kind of think you might not yet have had your own visions, but the Anabaptists have similar sort of visions, and they're often in a lot of the Anabaptists who go on to become really important. They have these emanations quite often, and it's almost like speaking in tongues for certain like modern charismatic sects, where it's like if you don't have the emanations, you're not a true believer. And so probably, if anyone around the table who has the Anabaptist tattoos at least claims to have had an emanation or something that they believe is an emanation.
So why would this Elise have such a negative association with the visions if her cult kind of views it as more of a good thing?
Well, you've never heard the Anabaptists openly talk of them to outsiders before.
Okay, so it might just be because it was spoken out in public.
Yeah, it's not like it's a secret thing. Like if you talk to an Anabaptist about it, they are happy to explain the phenomena to you, but they are not necessarily happy to tell you what theirs are.
Okay.
So like there's a distinction there of like, yes, there's something that they believe in, and they're all going to do it, but they're not necessarily going to talk about doing it, you know? And some of that's because doubtless some of the Anabaptists are frauds, and some of the others
They are.
uh, are, you know, they believe their messages from God, and so they're not necessarily going to open up the secrets of their, you know, hearts to outsiders. You know, it's like, if you want to join the faith, then maybe we'll talk about our emanations. But if you're, you know, someone who's come in from off the streets and you're just now talking to us, they might not be as open about it. Like, they're not going to deny that they do it, but they're not going to.
Yeah.
They're not going to be like, and I had a vision that said, you know.
Tell me your vision. All right. So on that note, we are going to take a quick 7-minute break, but then we will be back to more shenanigans with Teague, Ray, Gamal, and our awesome GM Kyle. All right. See you guys in a little bit.
All right.
And we are back with the Degenesis live. Do the thing, Kyle.
I just totally forgot where we were.
We were eating, like we're doing
Yes,
now.
eating, having a conversation about the emanations.
I was
That's where we
mystifying
left
them
off.
with the magic of the Nubians.
So when Elise gets up and leaves, Ada sort of like grabs up a plate of food and follows her. And Wald just sort of like glances after her as she leaves and says, "Well, I suppose I can start talking about Hilda now."
Yeah, please do. Go ahead. Nothing's stopping you. Why don't you go on walk that road? The table's
says-
open, so to speak.
So Hilda has been here as long as we all have. We actually grew up together. It was, and he points to a couple of the other farmers at the table, and Ada and I wound up together around the same time Elise left for the wars. And prior to that, I dated Hilda for a while, and so that's part of the reason why Ada doesn't like me talking about Hilda. It's just she doesn't like to remember that we
Used to fuck.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And so after a few years passed, Hilda got married and moved off to one of the farms, and things got a little less tense. And then I married Ada, and then we've all been living happily ever after, as it were.
I don't think anyone ever does.
I don't think happily ever after really happens when you have somebody who is insecure and jealous in your life.
Yep.
Says Ada's not normally that. He thinks for a moment because he doesn't want to say anything too negative. So she's been under a lot of stress with Elise.
The emanations, the visions.
He says, yeah. He says, Elise was prisoner in the Adriatic for 2 or 3 years, and then just showed up on our doorstep.
Huh. Does anyone know what happened between those 2 points?
He sort of nods his head. He says, we know she was taken prisoner by the Jehometans, and by her own account they treated her well. But before she left for the war, there'd always been a difference between Ada and Elise. Elise isn't orgiastic. She's from the branch of the Anabaptists that sort of believes in going all out in life. And Ada's always been more reserved. She's an ascetic. She always abstained from things.
What sort of things does she abstain from?
He says, for instance, she doesn't drink distillate, and she eats very little compared to what Elise would have in her youth. He says Elise always lived to 11.
Yeah, I mean, and what about Hilda? Is she an Anabaptist as well? Or?
He shrugs his head no. He says Hilda's a provider. She's from one of the local clans.
So you ended up marrying the one who abstains and likes to go at life at a 5.
Says yes. He says, well, truthfully, he says, Elise scared me a little, but I would have wed her instead had she not gone off to the wars.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
But I have no regrets over my decisions I've made. He says, but one of the issues that Ada always had with Hilda is Hilda's father was village juryman before I was. And I've taken up the reins sort of since his demise. And I think she always thought that there was more between me and Hilda than just our childhood escapades.
Demised, murdered, killed.
He says he had been sick for many years, he says. Um, and eventually he just didn't make it through a winter. He seems actually a little bit genuinely upset by this. Um, Wald says, like he was a good man. Um,
Sounds like it.
he says, and now that Hilda's had her crops give out, she might lose their land.
It sounds like you were very close to the family in general.
He says, you could say that.
Can you account for Ada's whereabouts? Within the last couple months, has she ever left this household for an extended period of time?
He says, Ada doesn't leave very often. Um, I don't really keep too much of a tab on her. She is her own woman, I don't have agents following her or anything.
Yeah, but do you guys hang out together, converse?
He says, of course I do. She's my wife. Um, he says, but Ada has gone on a pilgrimage to Cathedral City, but that was in the spring. Um, I can't think of a time when she would have been able to do anything to the crops.
Oh, that's not what I was insinuating at all, but it's interesting that you brought it up, though.
Is Hilda the only one having issues? Anyone else in the neighborhood as well?
I've heard reports from other sectors, but Hilda's the only one around here. He says, I know a lot of people are saying the Jehammedans. He says, well, I wonder, and then he pauses for a moment, like he wants to say something, but he's not sure if it's right, and so he says, I don't think it's the Jehammedans.
Who takes care of your crops?
He says, well, Hilda, since she lives by herself now, grows her own crops. Her land's a little bit more than she can take care of by herself, so she has her neighbor's help. They have two big, strong sons, and they're able to help her take it in well enough.
Well, I say in the morning we go out, speak to her, as well as investigate the crops and the soil. Sounds like it's going to be a busy day.
Okay. So Teague is going to take a big armful of the food in front of her, bow, and walk out into the
Teague, you better not turn that into a paste.
You get a lot of like weird looks, but no one like stops you or anything. There's still lots of food left over. Wald's still sitting at the table eating, and the farmers are discussing stuff, whining about taxes, complaining about one battalion or another who's always finding fault with something for one reason or another and refusing to pay full price for grain.
Battalions. I'm telling you.
But of course, if it were really contaminated, they wouldn't buy it at all.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. They sort of almost are ignoring you unless you butt into the conversation.
I'm butting in. I'm used to people welcoming me and giving me food and giving me respect.
So Ada has left the room, right?
Yes.
Okay. Ray is going to stand up, give her bow, grab a roll off the table, kind of throw it up in the air, catch it behind her back, and then head out to follow Ada to go talk to her.
All right. You find her in the chapel.
Ada,
She turns to look at you.
I am sorry, but you seemed troubled at dinner, and I was hoping that perhaps I could lend an ear for someone who might not be biased in the situation.
She sighs and she says, I don't mean to be rude, but it's difficult to describe to outsiders all that has happened in Elisa's life.
Well, perhaps maybe not Elise. You seemed rather upset about something else.
She sort of takes a deep breath, and you get the feeling that she doesn't necessarily want to talk about what's bothering her. Let me pull up. Yeah, she's definitely closed off. You can tell that there's definitely something that's bothering her that she does not want to talk about. Maybe make a charisma expression check for me, please.
Okay.
Quick note about the system: if you ever have a skill that's not trained, you don't take a penalty in it. You just don't get any extra dice. So you
Okay.
just roll your straight attribute.
So you said expression, right?
Yep.
All right. So I've got 3 in charisma and 1 expression, so that would be 4.
All right.
4 dice, or okay.
Yeah.
Two 6s, a 4, and a 1.
All right. You can tell that she sort of blames herself for how she feels. She's not she's not as she maybe came off a little harsh at dinner, but she doesn't really seem to hold any real. She's not really like upset with Wald or upset with Hilda.
Well, I know I am an outsider, but I have a penchant for listening to people. And if you don't want advice, I don't give it. But I do like to try and help others.
She thinks for a moment and then she says, "Well, I know what people say." She says, I know that people say I'm with Walt because I knew that he was going to be the village juryman one day. And she says, it's true, I've grown soft in his house. But what really bothers me is Walt could help Hilda. She says it's 200 drafts to register an allotment of land for another season. And that's pocket change to Wald. She says he handles the registration, so he wouldn't even need to put it out of his own pocket. So of course, the chroniclers might complain, but village jurymen, half of what they charge is a fee for handling the paperwork, and then half of it goes to the chroniclers and then the judges. So, Wald could help Hilda. He could pay the fee, or he could get her the land renewed for free. But he hasn't, and I don't know why.
Do you think it's possibly because he loves you and he doesn't want to upset you?
She says, I don't know. I've brought it up with him and mentioned it. I didn't really tell him how I feel, but he didn't. And she sort of like pauses. It's like I get the feeling he doesn't care. You know that he'd much rather have the drafts than help Hilda out.
That is very sad. It is important that we help each other, especially in these difficult times. I mean, I understand that I am not from here, but I can only imagine that working together would be the only way to make it through the winter.
She nods and she says, "Well, I mean, I think Hilda's gonna be fine for the winter." She says, "You know, her neighbors have taken care of her ever since her son went off to war and her husband died. So I don't. I'm not. It's the principle of the thing, you know. Like I don't think she's gonna starve on the streets or anything, but you know, I mean, we grew up together. You know, if I were in Wald's shoes, I'd let her have the land another year."
She puts her hand gently on Ada's shoulder and she said, I agree. Those of us who have more need to help those who have less, or who have little, because in this world, at the end of the day, all we have is each other.
She says, "Yeah." She says, "That's how it is." And she says, I don't know." She says, "Honestly, Wald Wald only got this way recently when we started building." She says, "And I think the money has gotten to him."
Unfortunately, greed and lust for power, things like that, can corrupt even the most ah, humble of individuals. And while I am not saying that absolves him from sins that he may have committed, perhaps not necessarily against another individual, but more on a moral scale, I think that we have to all, at some point, realize we are human and we have a tendency to fall to those not necessarily savory desires. And your husband loves you, I can tell that. And perhaps if you speak to him again, or if you'd like, I could speak with him, and we could discuss possibly trying to set up a way to help Hilda.
She says, "Yes." She says, "I'll talk to him again and let him know more how I truly feel." She says, "I was a little afraid it might seem disingenuous."
Ray lightly squeezes her shoulder and smiles. If you'd like to talk some more, or you need someone to listen or lend an ear, or perhaps even some advice, just let me know while I'm here, and I would be more than happy to help.
She thanks you and says, "You've been a great help." She says, um, "And likewise, if you need any assistance, let me know, and I'll make sure that we're able to help you out."
Absolutely. Thank you. I will leave you to your worship. And she walks out.
All right. Meanwhile, Gamal's still back at dinner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, around the dinner table, the Anabaptist farmers have been going on about how it's definitely the Mohammedans, and all the non-Anabaptists have been going sort of politely like, well, I don't know for sure. Sort of
Yeah.
like, the neighbors who are saying, conspiracy theories, and it's like, don't make eye contact. Um, but then Wald actually pipes up and says, you know, I'm not saying it's the Mohammedans, but we all know they want more pasture land. And Hilda's holdings are right on the boundary of some of the Mohammedan holdings.
Mm.
So in the morning, and then he looks over at you, it might not hurt if you went and just asked some questions, looked around, see if you can find anything that looks spotty.
That's
So
fair. Do you have any idea how much this land could be sold to the Mohammedans?
he says, well, I've never done business with the Mohammedans myself. He says Hilda's land is right on the border between my territory and another juryman's. Um, so I don't know how much they're willing to pay for it. He says, plot like Hilda, the fee's 200 drafts.
All right.
Says, we haven't had bidding on a plot in a long time, so I'll have to check with the codex to see how it's supposed to be handled, but I don't think the Mohammedans would be willing to pay more than the base price.
That's fair. All right, I'll make some inquiries tomorrow morning. Any case, you know what, everyone? It has truly been a pleasure, and thank you guys all for hosting me. I'm gonna go up into my room, and good night. I'll get up and head out.
So Wald sort of courteously wishes you a good night, and then you retire to your chambers. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to do during the festival banquet, or
Well, while I'm in the room, could I assess whether the food came from the farm itself?
everything that you see looks to be basically flawless? Um, I mean, it's not. I wouldn't describe it as all being perfectly fresh, but it's all definitely safe to eat. Some of it's maybe a mite overcooked. Um, there's maybe more of an emphasis on showcasing a wide selection of foods than necessarily having them be prepared by experts who know what they're doing. Um, like Wald's basically trying to flash cash, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's no sign of any blemish or anything. Um,
Okay. I think that's all I can do right now. I think Teek's just gonna like take a big chunk of it and like squish it together and then put it together and eat and go to sleep.
Ray comes back into the room and she notices that Teague is asleep. Is Gamal back in the room? Okay. She kind of gently kicks Teague's bed with her foot. Teague, wake up! I think you guys need to hear this.
She rolls out from underneath the bed. Yeah.
Teague, you gotta stop that.
So I spoke with Ada and I learned some interesting things.
All right.
Ooh, yeah.
She actually has no real problem with Hilda. She suggested to her husband that he put up some financing for her land so she might be able to keep it another year, and he refused. She fears that he's become greedy and overpowered by a desire for money. She is deeply concerned about the man that he is turning into.
All right. Fair. I mean, it's not something we can really get into. How a juryman.
Did she say anything about the? Does Hilda have like a what do you call it? The fertilizer formula or something? The pesticides?
She did not mention anything about that, but she did say that she was childhood friends with Hilda, and they've all known each other for quite some time, and there's no real reason that there should be a hesitancy on her husband's part, especially as a, and my brain died. What is he again?
Juryman.
Juryman. That as a juryman, he should have any problem helping her with. So, as I told her that perhaps she should have another conversation with him. My concern, though, is this. He's obsessed with building and acquiring excess. What if he wants to acquire her lands as well, at possibly a discounted rate?
Yeah. I mean, he could be responsible for the poisoning of the lands himself. He could be wanting to sell it to the Jehamedins. All I
Could be the
say
sleepers.
could be sleepers.
Maybe a marauder.
I mean, regardless, let's keep our head down because, you know, if we make too much waves, we're not 3 individuals who can stand up to any sort of pressure from any of the clans.
Says you.
I mean, yeah, I guess apocalyptics do enjoy some respect up here. But as for Teague and I, yeah.
But also, it's rather funny to hear coming from you that we should keep our head down, Mr. Big Mouth.
Now I'll poke holes through people's self-belief and such, but when it comes to messing with a man with means and the thing he wants to acquire, I get a little hesitant.
Oh, this is good. This is good information. We can put it in our reports back to the judge, no?
Yeah, definitely.
But we still need proof.
I mean, tomorrow morning, let's go to the farm, examine the soil, talk to Hild, maybe speak to some of the Jehamedins in the area, just in case. Yeah. I'm sure whatever nefarious deed is going on here, we'll discover and we can figure out what we want to do with the information.
Mm.
In any case, Teague, please don't sleep under the bed.
Why? It's closer to what I used to have at home.
Yeah, but like...
It's cold. Like the cold steel of my sleeping god's hearts.
Teague, we have a saying back where I come from. It's called, that would be nightmare fuel.
What is nightmare?
It is something that comes to haunt your dreams.
It's you crawling out from under the bed.
Oh, I am a nightmare expert. Would you like one?
No. Whatever that is. You know what? Crawl back under the bed. It's cool. It's cool. In any case, we should all get some shut-eye. It's going to be a long day of maneuvering, etc. How many beds are in here?
There are 5 beds, actually.
Cool. So, Teague, there is room if you want to actually sleep on a bed. But nonetheless.
So, Teague just picks another bed and proceeds to take the blankets and go back underneath.
So,
Ray,
Teague... Go ahead.
Ray finds another bed, rolls out her sleeping bag, and tucks her pack underneath the bed.
Teague, why are you going to Justitian? Why'd you want to go to Justitian?
Oh, how do you say? My spiritual leader told me that there's someone I need to speak with in the city, but I won't know them until they approach me first.
That sounds mysterious.
Yes.
How about you, Ray?
I'm an apocalyptic. Why do we do anything?
Money, sex, booze, drugs.
It's good to see that you don't separate fact from myth.
Oh, I like to see things for what they are for the most part. Try to, at least. Yeah. Well.
Why do apocalyptics do anything? Like, did we just get existential? We are way too early in the campaign to get existential.
We going.
It is my fatal flaw as a creature. Yes, my RP skills are like way existential and like
real. But anyway,
so actually, this is a good stopping point because we are getting up late in the
we
time.
Are getting.
Yeah.
Let's just say I'm in Arizona, so for me this is totally not late. But you guys are back on the East Coast mostly, right? So
yeah, I mean, well, except for Jasmine. She's totally completely different. I mean, for me, I'm always awake as a babe, but yeah, it's good to get sleep. Nonetheless, we want to leave this awesome cliffhanger as our three intrepid heroes lay about in various states, either on top of bed or under bed, hopefully sleeping of the amazing day that is to come, which will totally be safe and sound. And we won't encounter any dangers.
No chance of getting murdered.
Exactly. Yeah. Tomorrow is 0% chance of murder. It's going to be great. Nonetheless, thank you everyone for joining us tonight at Penny for a Tale. Tomorrow we are playing Cartel at 7:30 or 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I need to double check, but nonetheless, it will be posted tomorrow and will be on the schedule. So check us out. That is Magpie Games Cartel, a great Powered by the Apocalypse game. You will see Amanda, and it's going to be awesome. Next week, we actually have a very special guest, Andre, who is going to be running El Ingranaggio, which is an Italian game. This will be one of the first times it's done in English, so it's going to be an amazing time. A kind of steampunk futuristic world using a card-based system. Really unique design. It's going to be awesome. Great stuff. And then following that, I don't know yet. But nonetheless, keep yourself updated on the Facebook, on our website, Penny for a Tale, and on our Discord. If you're interested in 6 More Vodkas Degenesis, feel free to check out their website. Check out their Discord. They're on all these things. And if you are going to PAX Unplugged, you will be seeing some of us representing like amazing people do. Nonetheless, you guys have a wonderful night and sweet dreams. Think of Teague under your bed. And on that note, bye.